years. So, well, 7, 6, 6. How long has it been now?
2016.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Well, it does fly. It seems like you've been with us the whole time, though. So, and you've always been very responsive, so I appreciate it. So I've only got a couple months left, so I'll brag on you right now. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Now, I might not like your budget, but I'm bragging on you, so. I got an ooh from the side. I don't know who said that, but that was funny.
Are you ready, sir?
Director Kempf, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry, let me move this over. So, Chair Roten, Vice Chair Gamble, council members, mayor, staff, thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you to talk about the planning department and some of our successes over the last year, as well as some of the challenges that we've overcome, and answer any questions that you might have about our fiscal 2024 budget request. I'm joined by George Rooker and Todd Oakla-Cheney here. That is Oakla-Cheney, our new deputy director. And if you haven't been able to meet or sit down with Todd, I certainly encourage you to do so. He joined us in February of this year as the Director of Planning and Urban Design in the city of Asheville, which is really confusing. When I talk about Nashville and he's talking about Asheville, we can kind of go back and forth. But anyway, he's been a great contribution to the department. And then, of course, Angie Hubbard has joined us, who's our Director of Housing, and she'll be available to answer questions, as well as Rochelle Albright with communication. So I want to thank the extraordinary team that we have at Planning, because through that team, we are able to get our work done. Today, I want to talk a little bit about planning for growth in our city. That is a theme that we all talk about. I know that you do every 2 weeks and through your daily tasks, and let you know what we're doing at the department to address the needs of our community. First, I want to thank the mayor's office and you council members for your support and for funding previous requests to help us meet our mission in a growing city. And so we have been working to fill the 25 positions added last year. We're making great progress there. And again, that is helping us meet the demands of our city. When I think about what makes a city healthy from a planning perspective, I think it's that we're planning at every scale of work. And so every 2 weeks, Lisa Milligan sits here and presents to you about site-specific work that you're considering, and that is just one scale. We have broadened our work to a neighborhood-specific scale. We're doing work in Edge Hill, at Global Mall. We've completed work recently, or the planning process around the East Bank. We're showing the scope of investment to our city and residents through our housing division, as well as Greg Claxton's work with the CIB. And we're proposing to formalize a process for planning for real property, which we're happy to discuss in this budget. But the point is that we want to plan for every scale of development, and I think that's what a healthy department is doing, and that's what a healthy city is working towards from a planning perspective. So I continue to be incredibly proud of the department, our accomplishments, and the work that we have undertaken. And I think we've come out of the hardships through COVID really well, and we learned a lot. We learned a lot about public engagement during that period. I don't like to say there are a lot of positives there, but I will say we became more nimble and more thoughtful about how we engaged the community and more creative. Some of the hallmarks from the last fiscal year include launching Metro's first ever housing division, which is led by Angie, and she has done such an incredible job. Under her leadership, the housing division has added 3 new staff to the team, created an early iteration of the housing dashboard, launched the mixed income housing pilot, which is the first new housing program in 5 years, and thanks to council was awarded $30 million in ARPA funds. So thank you. We are really excited to talk more about her work. We finalized the vision for the once-in-a-generation opportunity through the Imagine East Bank plan. That included 21 months of engagement led by Anna Greider, 50 public meetings, 1,200 attendees, and so our goal there was to lay a vision for responsible planning in our urban core, just so challenging. This kind of city building continues thanks to the work of our long-range planning team under John Houghton. Community plan staff work with council members, neighborhood organizations, and property owners on more than 30 Nashville Next plan amendments, including 10 requested by Metro Council in a resolution sponsored by Councilwoman Gamble. So thank you, Councilwoman Gamble, for working with Councilman Withers and bringing forward the needs and issues before this body and helping us ensure that Nashville Next remains relevant. Its strength is in its relevancy to current issues. Throughout the year, community plan staff participated on panels and programs that addressed growth and development in Nashville with several agencies, including the public schools, Metro Trustee's Office, APA, Scenic Tennessee, the Urban Land Institute, Neighbor to Neighbor, Civic Design Center. We want to be in as many places as possible talking about planning in our city and how important it is to have engagement at every level and to have folks interested in planning so we can reinforce a strong planning ethic here. We have established a project management section, a first for our department, to handle planning for the project level work. That includes environmental planning, market and environmental research, neighborhood planning, the global mall, and Edge Hill are two of the areas where we're piloting this type of work. And so we really appreciate the engagement of those communities, and we're just working through that process. So you'll hear more about that next budget cycle. Our design studio staff, led by Joni Williams, is doing critical work in downtown where we have seen explosive growth. We have upgraded our design standards to ensure that we are reviewing the highest quality of planning and design projects. For residential projects, we have been requiring no short-term rentals where overall height modifications are requested because we know how important it is to create a great residential community in downtown. And so that's not for every project, but ones that are requesting overall height modifications, those are the things that we're negotiating. You all know Lisa Milligan and how hard she works to support our planning department and the commission and give you advice and feedback about your meetings. You will not be surprised to know that Lisa received about 1,500 applications in her section last year and more than 274 council bills. You are busy. When you are busy, we're busy. So you've done a really phenomenal job. And I think Lisa does a phenomenal job as well, thinking through those issues. Our development services counter, which this body funded 3 or 4 years ago, is a really important customer service interface. And that team handled more than 2,300 reviews, which was up more than 37% from the previous year. And so they are really the face of the department and are incredibly hard workers. I think it takes a special personality to sit at the planning front counter, right? So you're just on call all the time, right? Our mapping and research teams continue to develop critical data. They process master deeds, update subdivision plats, things like that. These are folks who are often very back of house in a way, and you don't really see their work, but you know it if it goes wrong. And so they do an incredible job. Finally, I do want to acknowledge Greg Claxton and the work that he does every year on the CIB, but this year had the special and really difficult task of the unusual redistricting request, which is one of the hardest that I've ever had professionally, hardest tasks. And we were able to accomplish that work because of Greg, because of his team. And I wanted to take a moment to thank you, because I think there were any number of points when folks in this body could have said, what is the planning department doing? We're really mad, and we would rather them not do the work that we were hearing from legal that we needed to undertake. And I just appreciate your kindness towards the department. I know no one was happy, but there were a lot of different ways that that could have been handled, and it did not go unnoticed that you treated us with kindness, and so thank you. And so other things that the Greg is undertaking now, which are better and funner projects, he's looking at independent music venues and trying to understand some of the drivers around threats to our music industry. Some of that is in planning and zoning decisions, and so we're happy to be part of the solution there, but we're just working through that process now. So that's just really a snapshot of some of what we have achieved over the last year. We are really looking forward to the year ahead. I hope, like me, you're inspired by some of the work in front of us. And again, we really appreciate you and your leadership and your work with the department. You make us better. So thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Lucy. Vice Chair Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director Kemp, for your presentation today, and just frankly, all of the work, the great work that you all have done over this last year that has been so challenging, not just with the increase in applications and regular development work that you have had to do, but in addition to that, the evaluation of Nashville Next in 30 different areas, as well as you mentioned, the surprise redistricting that you had to do in a matter of 1 month, pretty much. So I just wanted to publicly commend and thank you for that. I hope my colleagues would join me in a round of applause, and after that.
Oh.
After that, I just want to make sure that you have everything you need in this budget to move forward to work as efficiently and exponentially great as you have done over this past year. Does this budget reflect everything you need in regards to FTEs or any other resources?
Thank you. It does. We, gave a careful look at all of the different programs and, think that the request targets a couple of key areas where we think we do need to grow as a department. And I think that the budget request reflects those aspects. I would say that our housing team is young, as I've noted, and so it's dynamic in the sense that, I expect growth and change each year in a positive way. And so we want to keep our eye on that. The other request that has been reflected here is around real property planning, which is something we've just been doing. And there's something in your district, a school, where that we need to bring those resources to bear. And so I think that I'm really pleased that that's included in the budget, and we look forward to delivering on those for the city.
Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director, for the summary. My questions, I think, mostly will actually be toward Ms. Hubbard. I noticed in the budget that there was money put forth or a position put forth for title clearing. I'm familiar with this challenge, but could you give kind of the body an idea of what that is and why that's important in this budget?
Oh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Council Member. Absolutely. So thankfully, we were able to utilize tax delinquent properties for the Barnes Fund to move those through. But unfortunately, when those come through, they are often fraught with clouded title. And so before they can even be utilized for housing development, those titles have to be cleared. The nonprofits have been bearing the burden of both the time and the cost. And we have been looking at best practices nationwide on how to make that more cost-effective and efficient. And what we're proposing through this budget is to do that through a new function to expedite that through maybe a subsequent conversation about creating a land bank to utilize some state law that would allow some bundling of the quieting of title and various aspects. So that's what we're looking at, and get those to market, get those developments underway much, much faster than we're able to right now.
Thank you. Can you speak on that note about land bank? Can you speak a little bit about the department's current efforts about land inventory, and then how those efforts might lead to what you're talking about regarding a land bank?
So I'm going to pivot some about the land inventory back to Director Kim for Todd. But so far what we've been focused on are the tax delinquent properties, but we've been looking at and challenged with looking at other public land for housing development. And that's where I'm going to toss the mic over to the center stage.
Sure, I could speak a little bit more.
It was on.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. I could speak a little bit more to the kind of the real property planning FTEs we're requesting as part of the budget. That would include 3 positions, as Director Kemp mentioned, to help us be more strategic in the way that we look at Metro-owned properties. This is certainly something, as Director Kemp mentioned, we're currently doing, but this would help to formalize that process and really create a set of policies for how we evaluate these properties in a more strategic way. We get requests through all the time through Metro Nashville public school properties and from other departments, and we like to be able to really take a look at those in a way where we can provide conceptual master planning services, engage with the community to determine what their goals are for those properties in alignment with Metro City Council goals, and also perform site feasibility analysis, market analyses, or any other tools that might be needed to really evaluate those properties to make sure that we're using them for their highest and best uses.
And how would you foresee those inventory efforts potentially moving us forward toward, we've had conversations in the past on when we have Barnes applications, a lot of times, sometimes we're dispossessing land that's been back tax or surplus land with those applications. And we've had questions from our body about why are we dispossessing that land? Could we still hold on to that land as a city and develop it? And what we're describing is a land bank. How could this inventory piece sort of lead into that discussion?
Sure. I mean, I think, right now we certainly communicate with other Metro departments when we're looking at any potential property that is part of a surplus process. I think we have an opportunity to probably strengthen some of our current policies around that to really, again, think strategically how we can efficiently use those properties and leverage those to meet various Metro goals. I think through this process, with these new positions, they would evaluate kind of a program for how we would look at those properties. And that would be, I think, one of the goals is how can we efficiently, again, leverage those properties to meet Metro goals and do so in a way where we actually are better communicating with other departments. That might be Metro Schools or NDOT, Parks and Recreation, all the various Metro departments.
And I think, Councilman, ideally, to Todd's point, we might end up with a pipeline, and you have short-term projects where you have needs right now where you know that there are issues around housing or you have a department need. But to your other question, there may be a longer perspective as well where you want to hold property. But we need a kind of a framework to make those decisions and to make those arguments. It may be that we need to be thinking differently about property acquisition as well. And so it's really about a holistic approach to real property needs.
Got it. Chair, if you'll allow me, I have one more question about the Barnes Fund itself. Right now in this budget, the Barnes Fund, I think, is funded at a $30 million amount. It's sort of bifurcated between our operating budget and this one-time surplus. Sauer, can you give a little bit of indication of what the current demand is for Barnes Fund applications based on the most recent round that's coming to us?
You're recognized.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember. This past Barnes Fund round, we made $30 million available. We received I believe it was close to $50 million in requests after threshold evaluations, looking to make sure that requests were actually feasible. That came down to about 46 million. So we did have about 46 million in feasible requests. We had 13 new nonprofit applicants this round.
So to that end, so there's about 46 million of those feasible or viable requests.
Correct.
Can you give a sense, I know we allocated ARP dollars to a certain amount, which was alluded to earlier. Can you give a sense of how much of that, what that kind of split is between operating dollars and ARP dollars that we've?
So pretty much in FY23, we've put some of the ARPA out through Barnes, about half of that, and then we had half of about 15 million in operating. So really that together was the 30 million that we put out, and so that split about half between what was operating. We actually pulled a little bit of operating to support the request for our ARPA program to create rental housing for older adults. We had really good requests, and the Housing Trust Fund Commission actually pulled $1 million from the operating to help supplement the request for the older adults, which we're super excited about. That's much needed. But those together were around 30 million.
Got it. And can you give a sense of how much is remaining of what we've allocated for ARP that has yet to be spent, whether from funding rounds that haven't gone out or funding rounds where you haven't gotten a viable application?
So we still have to be awarded, I'm looking because I think I rolled in the MHID 10 million in there. We have about half of our ARPA left. We have the home ownership piece that was not Barnes that we're moving the RFPs through that process now.
And how, can you remind me how much that was?
That was $500,000 for creating a network to plug in populations that have historically been disenfranchised in the home ownership space to connect to down payment assistance, financial literacy to get them prepared, and then $9.5 million to create shared equity home ownership. Then we actually I need to correct myself, we're putting back out another round of Barnes for the cooperative housing. We didn't get a good application for that, so we've revisited that and talked to some best practices and putting that back out, that $7 million.
Okay.
Also outside of Barnes is $300,000 for our home sharing network technology, and that RFP is actually should be released by procurement any day.
Got it. Okay. I do want to thank you for the I mean, I know that you've had a lot to handle, especially with the ARPA money and the RFPs that have been going out, and I know you're going through staff transition as well, so thank you for the work that you've done. I know the director mentioned it, but I think it's good for us to acknowledge that as a council as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sledge. Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Roten. Director Kemp, echo everybody here in their thanks for your department and all the good work that y'all are doing, and kind of moving into a proactive space with the additional staffing that you've had. And so you've been speaking to, real property or responding to some of those opportunities and community plan updates. But I wanted to ask more specifically, and I know that intersects with NDOT, about corridor master planning. And so, when we've talked about policy in the past, whether that be sidewalk requirements or street tree requirements, we started with our street tree requirements in our centers because we wanted those to be walkable and shaded, and that, was a mappable area. It had thought about expanding those to corridors, but recognized but if we're going to master plan all these corridors, maybe we'll wait for that. And then there was kind of the overlay related to trees. And so all of these kind of layers of opportunities, I wanted to understand from your perspective of staff, because all these things intersect with each other, right? The corridors intersect areas, which intersect the community plans. What, from a staffing perspective, are you all bringing to bear versus NDOT for the corridor master planning? Because I think we will continue to kind of see that coming up, whether it be, through Belmead Plaza, right? Like a lot of the pushback on that was, but fix fix the corridor, right? And then now with the legal challenge to the sidewalk regs and how we're going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board on the requirements there, and if we are going to kind of frame those out around corridor requirements and so forth. So can you speak to some of that streetscape design piece and what planning is doing there, please, and how that intersects with your operational budget and staffing, please?
Sure. So in our long-range planning section, we have planners who are generally trained around land use planning. They include mobility planning. The head of that section has experience working with a planning and engineering firm, and so knows mobility planning well. In our design studio, we have several landscape architects now on staff, and so we're really building out a professional basis to look at the interdisciplinary needs of a project. So what I think that as NDOT is a new department, and so our relationship with them is going to evolve in a positive way as they build out planning services as part of their work. So for Dickerson corridor, for example, we looked holistically at the land use around Dickerson as well as how the street needed to function. But it was really at a conceptual level, if you will. Once we got into detailed discussions around crosswalks or specific street sections, then we began to rely more on NDOT. But the core principles that we heard from the community and wanted to progress were taken into account from NDOT. I think we need to do that same level of work on Murfreesboro, for example, as well as a number of other corridors in the city. And so what I see is a partnership there. We are working with NDOT on their mobility master plan. We're going to help fund that and include the major and collector street plan as part of those tasks. We haven't initiated that work, so I hope I'm not getting too far out in front of Director Alacron, but I'll just say that we've agreed to work with them on that countywide plan, and we'll both have outcomes as a result. So again, going back to the planning at every scale, you want your planning department, I think, to make sure that land use and transportation are well integrated. And we have the LAs on staff to make sure that the streetscape planning and thought is accomplished. Once you get into a certain level of detailed design, we do need the department that's going to implement to assume responsibility for those services. And so you really have to align. It's really about different phases of planning and development and who carries the ball at what phase. Is that okay?
That is helpful. And Chair Roden, if I could just ask one follow-up. I absolutely understand as you get to sort of the granular level of, where we're going to cross, and obviously how we go fits into all that, because where are the stops relative to the land uses, and that evolves over time. But at maybe kind of the conceptual visioning stage, I sense a little bit of a gap in confidence or awareness in the community about kind of, what we can do, whether from a technology standpoint or best practice, or how might this corridor be. And so I don't know if there's an opportunity kind of in a conceptual space, right, where, and I know people get kind of nervous about like, oh, is it BRT or is it light rail or is it frequent bus, and what does that mean? And if we put forward a plan for this, then are people going to get kind of, feeling a certain kind of way? But I do think it's helpful to the community because not everybody can kind of see in three-dimensional space. People want to have kind of a aspirational vision for what these major corridors might be, and I think it elevates the confidence of the community. So from a design studio perspective, yes, there are, say, federal funds and a TDOT partnership for this particular corridor that we are doing at this time to a certain level of design detail. But as far as just kind of all of the corridors in a similar vein to our community plans and Nashville Next, I'm just wondering, can we layer in kind of our major arterials a little bit and get those just a little further down the line just conceptually? Is that even doable with current staffing? Is that feasible? Is it worthwhile? I don't know if you have any thoughts in that regard.
Well, it's absolutely worthwhile. I mean, our main corridors should be great public spaces, and we in our city have had a practice of turning our backs on them. I think in the last 10 years or so, certainly under your leadership with respect to sidewalks and the like, we've begun to see them as meaningful front doors for our city, but we have a ways to go. And so I think that some of what you're asking about is happening. We started with Dickerson. I think Murfreesboro is one that's going to get some attention. But what I will do is ask Director Alacron at what point we can brief this body on the mobility master plan, because I think you will see us pull out certain layers. There will be layers that we pull out in rural areas. There will be layers that we pull out that are major corridors. And so part of this is a one-size-fits-all doesn't work. But I agree with you that the distance between when we're doing a concept plan and we get lots of public input to implementation can be a big gap, and that shakes public confidence in Metro and what we're doing. And so I hear you about trying to front load certain kinds of decisions into the community conversation so they know what to expect. So I think that that's a good way to make sure that we're responsive to this body, is having a briefing on that mobility plan.
Councilmember Henderson, is that all?
Yes, sir. Ms. Roden, if I could ask one more follow-up question from a policy perspective, right? So whether it's Ms. Williams' group or proactively, I really do appreciate the staff positions that were added in anticipation of tree-based tree canopy policy. So, really listening to the council, listening to the community about areas of policy interest. And can you speak to, is it Ms. Williams' group in particular that is charged with kind of policy recommendations? Ms. Milligan did some great work with Councilman Sledge when we talked about parking minimums, right? And pushed that another level. That really was a great collaboration, I think, because, right, council was listening to best practices and hearing what that might be, wanting to do maybe a halfway change, and you all really leaning into that and just saying, let's go on and do the thing, right? And I love when we work together in that way. And so I'm kind of looking ahead and thinking, how might we continue to do that? And do you feel that that is just sort of by group or interest area? I mean, is anyone charged in particular with the policy piece? Like yes. Title 17 text amendments, guess, basically is what I'm talking about.
Yes, and I'll tell you a happy thing, and then I'll reveal a little frustration that I would love to continue to chat with this body about how to solve. So from a department organization perspective, so we have a long-range planning section, and that is the group that is in charge of policy, and they're also in charge of major projects. When I say policy, we think of land use policy. So for the moment, let's say long-range planning is land use policy and major projects. So this is an interdisciplinary team of planners who don't typically do site-specific plans work. They are responsible for looking at whole areas. This would be the East Bank, Global Mall, areas in Dickerson, Wedgwood, Houston, for example, all areas we've done planning work. They have access to consultants, so if for some reason there is a gap in our knowledge base that we identify where there's a need, they're the ones who accomplish that work. And so we have a work program, and we've identified corridor planning as something that's important, and so that group is the one that will work with NDOT on the mobility master plan. The design studio is really set up to bring expertise primarily in the design field. So we have architects and landscape architects in that section to support the other sections. And so they will participate on teams. So we have interdisciplinary teams in the department. What I will say about text amendments is that that's a different policy level. And I think one of the challenges that we have had as a department is that when text amendments are generated, they'll come to the department on the same schedule as you might get a zoning case. And so, but citywide text amendments tend to be very complex. And so the department immediately, our organizational infrastructure is set up to start reviewing it as if it's a plan. And very often that's not the right answer. And so I'm interested in having a conversation with this body about what it would look like to have cycles of major citywide text amendments so that we would know when they're coming and we could help do citywide engagement as opposed to, sort of the project by project look that you might get. And so as a department, we've been having a conversation about where that best sits because Ms. Milligan is most knowledgeable about the zoning code, but again, she's looking project by project. And so really it needs to be a collaboration between her and whichever section has the expertise. If it's trees, it's usually our landscape architects. If it's mobility, it's somebody in long-range planning. And so you have to fit the response to what the text amendment is actually asking for. But I think we are doing a disservice to the council and to the city generally by not having a more predictable text amendment process. And I would welcome, I have some ideas on that point, if you're open to it, to talk about how we can better plan for those citywide pieces and hopefully give you better analysis. I do think the parking example was one where we were successful as a department. We had really formulated a policy that was many years in the making, so delivering a recommendation there was straightforward. There are other cases where we don't know yet what we think about a text amendment, and that's where I think, we could do a better job if we had a little more time and a little more predictability.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much because I feel like, there are those of us who, have been working in that space and kind of respect the balance of everything that's on staff's plate and, trying to kind of, wait, right, and kind of figure that out. And, this has been an unusually difficult term with a whole lot of challenges. And then you do feel sometimes perhaps, if a colleague files something, and it's always a big thing, and then y'all kind of have to drop everything and respond to that, and then folks who have maybe been waiting, trying to right, and just kind of figuring out that balance. But I think if there is a cycle of some sort, and then just from a staffing standpoint, so that it's not, oh, well, Ms. Milligan has to go over here, or this team has to go. And not that there won't be staff that are subject matter experts to any particular thing, but I do think it's helpful, whether it be a cycle or it be a person who, kind of facilitates that and kind of helps manage that will be helpful. So we look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Councilmember Allen, you're last on the list.
Thank you. In the questionnaire or the working document, there was a mention of $5 million for land bank something or other. Is that being covered by the Catalyst Fund, or is that a lost opportunity that we wish we had? Any comments on that?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. That was the original thought around the land bank, but after further consideration, the first year is really about standing that up with the staffing of the FTE, getting the title clearing services in place, and creating all the policies and now coordinating with these other three, that anything beyond that would probably be more of a future ask as we look to see what acquisitions we may want to undertake. But for this upcoming fiscal year, we believe that the $500,000 is what we need on this original.
Seeing no other hands, and unless, Director wanted to say something. So
I don't know if my eyes are just getting old, but I didn't see three other staff in the back that I wanted to acknowledge. Randy Semrick, Katie Gunther, and Jeffrey Leach, who keep us out of trouble in the planning department. That's the core operations team, so I want to thank them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director. I appreciate you being here. We appreciate all the work you've done for us over the last 2 terms. So
Thank you.
if I don't see you again, I appreciate it. If I don't see you here, publicly,
this?
you know what I mean, publicly.
Okay.
If I don't
All
see
right.
you publicly,
Okay.
I want to thank you publicly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your leadership
Thank
and
you.
your
I appreciate-
service.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Thanks everybody for staying so long tonight. We will see y'all tomorrow night. We are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.